Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the place you come to become happier, healthier, and more healed. Today's guest is someone that I've been looking forward to having in the seat ever since I came across his content on social media. I knew I had to have a conversation with him. Today's guest is Jefferson Fisher, a trial lawyer turned communication expert whose simple, practical tools have helped millions handle conflict with more calm and clarity. Jefferson is known for breaking down the exact words to use in real life moments when emotions run high. His book, The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More, is already changing the way people navigate arguments, boundaries, and difficult conversations. I'm excited to welcome to On Purpose, Jefferson Fisher. Jefferson, it's great to have you here.
Jay, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean it. I really, when I first came across your content on Instagram, I think it was, I just thought it was so clear, it was so concise, and I feel communication is one of these underrated skills that we all use all the time. We all need it in every part of our lives, yet no one taught us how to do it at school or anywhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what has communication unlocked for you in your life and for the people that you help in a way that nothing else could?
It's unlocked a life of peace for me. A lot of people say you sound very calm. Well, it's because I've been through a lot of hard, and that means a lot of hard communication, a lot of hard conversations. The greater tolerance I have for difficult conversations, the greater relationships I'm going to have in my life. For me, communication has helped me be a better husband, a better father, a better friend in ways that only communication can do. And you're right. We go through our whole season of growing up, going to high school, maybe going to college, and all of a sudden you get married, and then you look at the person next to you and go, oh, I have to talk to you. I have to talk at work. I have to manage people. How do I do that? That's a skill of communication that it is learned. It is not just gifted.
Well, you just said that you are a good communicator because you've had a lot of tough conversations and hard conversations. I think most of us, we avoid tough and hard conversations. We don't even want to go there. And we don't want to get into a tough discussion with our partner, or we don't want to get into a difficult discussion with our boss, or we're trying our best to just navigate away from, and we think that's what good communication is. Why would you encourage people to meet difficult and tough conversations head on?
If you don't, the bill always comes due. The bill always comes due. You're going to have that difficult conversation at the very end when you're at your wit's end, or you may never have it at all because there's going to be something in your life that happened that they're not going to be here anymore. And what should have been said, that opportunity was lost. We avoid the difficult because we avoid the angst that we feel. But yet when we choose to have the difficult conversation and we get on the other end of it and realize, oh wait, life didn't fall apart. Oh wait, I'm still here. Oh wait, they chose to accept me. Wait, they didn't run away. It's a feeling that can't be replaced when you realize you can be more vulnerable with this person. You can go deeper with this person. Think of the people in your life that you're the closest with. They're the people who've seen your ugly, the hard stuff, the messy stuff. And when you can have that kind of capacity for each other in communication and conversation, you're only going to grow.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like the reason we're scared of having a tough conversation is because we're scared of the outcome. And so we've already predicted that I don't want to have that conversation because they're going to break up with me. I don't want to have that conversation because then they're going to know I'm weak. I don't want to have that conversation because I might get fired or I might get looked over for that promotion. How do we approach tough conversations without an inherent belief of it being a negative result?
It's the understanding that it's not my job to feel somebody else's feelings for them. That's what you do when you're afraid to disappoint someone. You're afraid to say the hard thing, the right thing. You'd rather be nice. You'd rather say the thing that sounds good. Those kind of things always have a bitter taste because you realize I'm not being real. I'm not being authentic. And before you know it, you've just been people pleasing. Before you know it, you feel less than yourself. Before you know it, you feel lost and you really don't know who you are. And now you're in your mid-40s and you have a crisis and you go, what is my purpose on life here? Because I've been living it to serve everybody else's needs, not for what's true and authentic in my life.
I'm trying to think of someone I was speaking to this week. I was speaking to someone, they said they're going through a tough romantic situation in dating someone. And they're scared that if they share how they feel, they may push the other person away. Talk to me about that.
Number one, it's a valid fear. I'm not going to say that fear isn't valid. I think anybody here that go, well, that's certainly understandable. What if they don't? It's always the what if they do? Well, okay, let's assume that they do. What happens next? If they do, you push them away. What happens? It's seeing that your life isn't going to fall apart. Now, if I come into the conversation and I am not trying to sugarcoat it, and if I'm not trying to make it to where I'm only saying things to placate you, to make you feel good and not being genuine, I've already set up the conversation and I've set up the relationship on fake. I'm just giving you a mask. I'm giving you a character of what I can tell is going to appease you. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be the fixer. I'm going to be the happy one. I'm going to be the one who's always bubbly and can never be sad. And you give them a character when you choose not to be authentic in the conversation. So the thought of, if I do this, I'm going to push them away. And if you do, what happens? That's really what the fear is. Am I enough by myself? That's the underlying fear. And when you realize I can be enough without them, all those fears go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're all working towards, I feel, is...
Yeah, am I enough?
Am I enough? And it's so interesting. I was talking to that person, I said, after you have that conversation, or whether you choose not to, I think self-love needs to be worked on either way, because
that's right.
That's at the root of it. What do you feel? You've been doing this for some time. You come from the legal world. Mm-hmm. What's the number one communication mistake you see people making today?
The one that I make too is that you think that what is said is exactly what's heard, especially in relationships. How many times in a relationship have they kind of repeated back what you said? Well, you said, man, that's not what I said. I didn't sound like that. That's not how I said it. And when you start arguing, they go, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And they go, I wish I had this recorded. I wish I had this on camera that you could have seen back how you just spoke to me. And instead we start fighting over how I said it. Mm. The better way to go is to say, what did you hear? What did you hear? Oh, okay. That's not at all what I meant. Can I have let me redo that. That's not at all what I meant. Instead, we split the conversation into something that has nothing to do with the original source. So the number one communication, the fault that I see is assuming that what is said is exactly what is heard. When you ask the question, what did you hear? Whether it's even in business or in relationships, you always get a different perspective that makes the connection that much stronger.
That is such a great answer. It's such a great answer. I did that. Me and my wife did that exact, we didn't do the exercise as consciously, but we went through that same exact thing. Recently, we were working out in the gym together. We were having a conversation. We heard each other totally differently, misjudged tones. I was like being loud because there was music on. She took that as like, I was a bit like, a bit triggered or whatever it was. And then we sat down and we talked about it. And that's exactly the conversation we had, where I was like, I did not sound like that. Right. And she was like, yeah, you did. Like, and then you realize that you're so right. You end up splitting the conversation and you end up arguing about something that you weren't even arguing about.
Yes.
And that's the worst part, because you end up creating something that is now an issue that wasn't even an issue in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And it ends up that you will prove yourself wrong. I mean, when you say, no, this is exactly how I said it. We don't even really know what our face looks like when we're talking, unless you're in a mirror the whole time, you don't know. And so we are terrible judges of our subjective expressions. They say, no, that's not how I said it. No, that's not how I said it. No, yes, you did. Yeah. And so that is, to me, if you want to know somebody that has strong emotional intelligence, it's how quick they get to asking for a reset. How quick they get to saying, that's not my intention. My intention was this. Okay, I can see that. The quicker that you get to that, that's somebody who says, I'm okay being wrong.
What does it take for someone who always thinks they're right to open up to the idea that they might be wrong?
The person in front of you isn't fighting you. They're fighting to be understood by you. They're fighting to feel understood by you. When somebody's clammed up and you have to say, you need to change your opinion. You need to change your opinion. You're right. I'm wrong. That's not going to happen. You can't just wish for that. Instead, if I were to say to you, listen, I'm not here to change your mind, Jay. This is what I believe. You hear how just me saying that all of a sudden opens up that curiosity of, well, maybe I do want to change my mind. I don't really know. But if I were to say, how can you possibly think that? You really think that person is the person you should be voting for? You think that, and as soon as I get into criticism, the more I tell you that you're wrong, the more convinced you'll be that you're right. Because most likely, if I want you to change your mind and I say that you're wrong about something, Jay, I'm not just saying you're wrong. I'm saying that your wife's wrong. Your dad's wrong. Your parents are wrong. Your grandmother is wrong. That thing that you went to when you were a kid, that's a big crystallizing moment in your life that set your belief system is all wrong. And it's become part of your identity. And so instead of me fighting, I think I'm fighting an opinion. I'm not. I'm fighting now your identity. And people will go to the ends of the earth. They will close off everything. They will box their ears to prevent having to change 1 second of their identity. Why? Because that change feels extremely scary. That's why evidence doesn't work. When you show people statistics on things, how can you possibly believe this? And they go, I just, no, it doesn't matter. They will justify it. They will flip it. They will find ways to take what supports them or reject anything that doesn't. It's because it's now part of their identity. So if you want to change somebody's mind, number 1, you have to validate them. 2, you can't argue against their identity. You have to argue against the value. You have to find the value, speak to the value. And 3, understand that one conversation is generally not enough. If you want somebody to change their mind, it takes years. It takes months. And the bigger the belief, the more time it's going to take.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm sure you hear this a lot as well. I hear a lot of people, especially people who would read our books, listen to our conversations, follow us on social media. A lot of people want to have conversations with their partners or their parents or a sibling, but they don't find that person wants to communicate about that topic or theme or subject.
Yeah.
So how do we communicate with someone who doesn't want to communicate with us? Because often that could be our partner, our parent, or someone that we love deeply.
Yeah.
And we want to talk to them about something meaningful, but they don't really even want to engage. Is it possible?
It's possible. I get a lot of questions of people who are estranged from usually adult children. There's, their 30-year-old son doesn't want to talk to his mom, or a daughter who doesn't want to talk to her dad, and they haven't spoken in 3 years. And every time I have that kind of conversation, it breaks my heart, because you can tell and look at this parent. They want to have a conversation with their child. And deep down, so does that child. They need that relationship. How do you crack that code? What I have found most successful and what I teach them is I begin with saying, I know, I'm not, and I'm open. And it sounds like this. I know there's distance between us. I know things aren't how we both want them to be. I know I've messed up. Whatever that is, you're saying what is a given. 2 is I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not asking for whatever it is. What they think, that's what you're after. And 3 is I'm open. I'm open to a conversation. I'm open to listening. I'm open to understanding. Whenever you can just crack the door open of saying the conversation is here. And sometimes that's not enough. They're not going to do it. And in that case, what I like to say is then you have to live out the conversation and understand that if you can't be a bridge, be a lighthouse. If they don't want to come across to me and they've burned the bridge, well, then they're at least going to know where I am, and they're going to know what I stand for, and they're going to see the light that I'm going to try to bring, even if they don't want to talk.
I know, I'm not, I'm open.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I really, really like that, especially the I'm not.
Right, exactly.
I feel like that's such an important one, because I feel like half the time it's like, I know we're not where we want to be, but I'd love it if you.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. They're waiting for I know there's distance, but you just, know, and they're expecting, who's going to apologize first?
Yeah.
I think that for relationships and family, the hard stuff, it becomes this petty fight over, well, I'm not doing anything until they apologize. And well, okay, you do it at your own peril. Then say goodbye to it. Say goodbye to it, because they both dug in their heels, and nobody's going to change unless somebody decides to do something different. And when you can just change the narrative by 1% and say, I'm going to go off on a ledge and do something different. I've seen more relationships come back together. I've seen more people come back and say, thank you so much. We're actually going to meet up for coffee. She's coming to Christmas this year. Oh my gosh. What is life not about if not that?
I really hope everyone who's listening and watching, tries that out.
You do that so well. I've seen that you'll say, when's the last time you talked to somebody? Grab your phone. Call them now.
Yeah.
Call them now. Why wait? Would you have to wait to be ready? Call them now. And when you choose to do something different, you choose to be the first. They say, I'm tired of being the bigger person. Well, that's life. Mm. Then you do it with the understanding that things are not going to be different unless something is different.
Yeah. Yeah. I always come back to, what is the outcome that I want?
Yeah.
Like if the outcome I want is for this person to know how I feel, then I might have to be the bigger person. I might have to be first.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to be apologetic. I might have to be more compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
But if that serves my ultimate goal, which is this person knows how I feel, then I should be willing to become anything.
That's right.
But if my goal is to set a boundary and not let someone cross it,
Right.
then I may actually even have to become more guarded. I may have to become more reserved. I'll have to become all these other things. And then you say, oh, but I don't want to be reserved. But it's like, but that serves your goal.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to know what your objective is or what your goal is of any conversation. I know you talk about how winning is never the goal of any argument, even though that's what we all think.
Yeah, especially being an attorney. People are like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? And that's just not that's not the truth. It's not like it is on TV. You will lose cases. In fact, if you haven't lost a case, you haven't tried enough cases, is what they say in the attorney world. Because I can't choose the law that applies. I can't choose my client's facts. You have to play the cards that you're dealt. But how I advocate it is different. What I teach is arguments are not something to win. They're something to unravel. You find knots in conversations. In law, there's this thing called the jury instructions, meaning at the very end of the trial, let's say you've had 2 weeks worth of evidence, you had openings, all your motions, and you're finally at the end and the jury's about to go back and make a decision on something. They have a document called the jury instructions, and it's written out. Who's responsible? This person, this person. They do this, yes or no. They add percentages. They might add money, whatever it is. It is this document that controls the ultimate outcome of the entire case. And good attorneys start with the jury instructions when they first get a new file. Bad attorneys wait till the very end. Same way in relationships. Like you mentioned, if I know where the goal is, everything else becomes fluff. Everything else becomes irrelevant. So what if they said that thing 2 years ago that you could bring up? So what if they, said it a way that they rolled their eyes? Can you have a little bit more emotional resilience to understand what's happening in that moment, to not be clouded by the forest, the trees through the forest, to be able to see what's happening in real life? So start with your end, have a goal for the conversation, and make sure if I could say with you, let's say you and I are off and I say, Jay, I know we're about to have a difficult conversation and I want you to know I'm going to be in it here with you. Now, how encouraged do you feel of knowing I'm not trying to abandon you in it? I'm not trying to push something at you. And when you are able to slow it down and see arguments as not something to win, but something to unravel, you find so much more in the connection.
If you've been with someone for long enough, they're going to end up saying something that will trigger you or that will get
undoubtedly.
To you. Yeah, undoubtedly. If you've been to someone long enough.
Yeah.
When your partner says something that triggers you, what do?
You tell them in a way that communicates it, that it sinks in. If something is said to me by Sierra and it triggers me, one is there is a mindset to me in any relationship that you have to have that says, this is a place where I can be messy. This is a place where I don't have to be my best. Of all the places to be, this should be the safest for me. Now, if it's intentional, this person meant to trigger you, then what I like to do is ask the question, did you mean? Did you mean for that to upset me? Did you mean for that to hurt me? You find out real quick if they really did. Because sometimes people say things they don't mean. Not sometimes, they always do. And if you find that you can't even slow down enough to have the discussion of this is what hurt me, you know that this triggers me. I think there's also a difference of if they know that it does and they're using it as a weapon, well, that breaches trust, versus they didn't know it and now you need to explain why this reminds you of that time when you were a kid that is setting you off and you're not really sure how to deal with it. So when it comes to being triggered, you first have to slow everything down. It means I'm going to talk slower. I'm going to lower my volume rather than getting amped up. And I'm going to let them know that something else is coming up for me more than what you said. And if you're in a committed relationship that they want to understand you, that's a conversation you're going to have.
And I think the natural reaction when someone says something that triggers us is either to say something that triggers them back, even if it was unconscious in the first place, or we kind of rush to defend ourselves, which seem like very natural human instincts. How do we build that slowness, that patience, that stillness that's required to actually create connection as opposed to do the human thing, which is defend ourselves and prove our worth and show we're right? How do we even get into that pocket?
Your first word has to be your breath in those moments. When somebody says something we don't like, we get up like that. We suck it in, but we don't let it out. Instead, our breath comes out when we're yelling or raising our voice. When you start to yell and somebody says you're yelling and you go, I'm not yelling, because you know deep down that's exactly what you're doing. If you find that you don't know how to slow it down, it's your breath. Your breath always comes first so that you can actually breathe. And there's a difference between if you say something that's hurtful and I immediately go, me? Okay, Jake, what about you? You don't remember that time that you really want to, you're going to, that's rich. That's funny. You want to say this to me and I start right out you, versus if I give it 5 to 7 seconds of nothing, meaning I'm going to breathe and I'm just going to let your words fall to the ground, as if I go, you sure you go with that? That what you said? Is that what you really want to say? Because people don't like to hear their words echo in that silence. I've seen it countless times where the person who said that hurtful thing, and you know what? I've been that person too, where you say, or they say, I shouldn't have said that. Before you have to say anything. What I meant to say was, or that was too far. That's allowing you to look more controlled and more confident in that conversation. And all of a sudden, when it's like this, instead of it slowly begins like this, just by the silence of understanding, hearing their words echo back, withdraws that sting. It never stings as bad.
Yeah, I like the let your breath become your first word. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's it feels like, again, it keeps going back to that idea of, if you think every conversation, and you write about this right at the beginning of the book, if you think every conversation is about winning and about being right, the goal is so skewed that you can't possibly take a breath, because to you, you're just losing.
Right.
Like a breath is just losing time. It's losing energy. It's losing momentum. It's just losing. And so again, it goes back down to we need to really reframe our mindset to say, not every conversation is about winning and being right. Conversations are about understanding and seeing someone and connecting and finding a common ground. And it's just not how we're wired.
No, it's not how we're wired. It takes discipline. It takes real discipline. When I hear people take a breath before they respond, I know what's about to come out has a much more heavy footing to it. If you were to just ask me, how was your day? Or how are you doing? I'm like, good. I'm great. Everything's good. And I have that quick response. And if you instead were to ask me, how's your day? And I went, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. What's the difference? Same thing. I use my breath. I slowed it down. I calm my nervous system. And as a secondary benefit, I also calm down yours.
Yeah.
And so most of the time, when you feel that rise coming, you have to slow down the conversation. So to me, the hotter the fire burns, the more you have to spread out the coals, because it's slowing it down, even asking, can we slow this down for a second? Can I take a moment just I'm here with you. I just need a second to think. What follows after is never how it sounded before.
If your partner's giving you the silent treatment, how do you engage?
Depends if the silent treatment is there for a reason. Some people you kind of have to do the gray rock on, that you can't reason with them. So I'm not saying that silent treatment is not there for a good reason sometimes, but let's say it's there to hurt you. There are people who will use silence as a punishment. They're upset. You did something and they just go, oh, okay, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. That to me is the number one sign of low emotional intelligence, is if you can't even have the ability to say, I need to take a break for a second because that really upset me. I'll text you this afternoon. I'll text you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow, versus just ghosting. Just because what it does is it puts the other person in the position of trying to beg, trying to plead. And then what happens to that other person, they desperately want you to communicate. So what do? Most of the time they say something super flagrant, like a bad foul. They say something that is really harsh, just in hopes that you come back in. That's it. They just want that text back. Okay, he's still there. He still reads my text. He's still whatever it is. And so if you really are somebody you're trying to get through the silent treatment, respond to, I see that you're giving me the silent treatment. I see that you've gone quiet on me. I'm going to give you space. I'm ready to have the conversation when you are. Now, there's a difference of somebody taking an hour to get back with you, taking 5 days to get back with you. Well, that's something different. That's somebody who has chosen not to be connected Because if I really want a conversation with you, a real relationship with you, I'm not going to put you in the position of begging.
That's such a great note, that if someone wants to be in a relationship with you, they'll never put you in a position of begging.
Never. They'll always stay interested. It's like for people who are married, let's say, or in a big relationship, it starts with me being very interested in you. I'm going to want to know your favorite color. I'm going to want to know what you like to eat, what you like to wear. I want to know about your family. I want to know all these things about you. I'm so interested. Why? Because I want to understand you. And then we get happy, and then it becomes a measure of how good can I feel with you in the good. And then you get married, and it's for better or worse, right? And then you just realize, I don't really like this worst part. I really just like the better part. And all of a sudden you realize that things get hard, and you're in year 7 of your marriage and year 14 of your marriage, and you feel further drifted apart because really you became less interested in them. You didn't get interested in the hard. You were just interested in what was the basics. You were good with the basic facts. You weren't good for the deep stuff. It gets to be where if you really want to know and test the strength of a relationship, it's not the measure of how good do I feel in the good times. It's how long can I sit with them in the hard times. And when I can sit with you in what is the deep struggle, when we're both crying, when we're both 3 hours into the argument and going, I don't understand why I can't communicate with you. How did I ever like you in the first place? That's real. That's raw. And if I can still sit with you in it, that's a type of connection that will last forever. It's, I talk to so many couples and even older couples of, how do you do it with communicating? How do you do communication so well? It's never, we have really big conversations. It's never that. It's, we know that things are going to be hard, and we choose to stick through the hard. People give up too easily. I mean, you're married. I'm married. They're a fight. They are an absolute fight, not between each other, but for the relationship. It's the relationship versus everything else. Attention, time, obligations, finances, kids. It's the relationship versus everybody else.
Is there anything someone can ever say that shows you they're not your person?
I don't care about you. If they really don't have an interest in caring about you. If you hear that I'm upset, or you hear that your wife's upset, you should care. I'm not talking about the surface level, like, okay, I don't care about that right now. I'm talking about the deep, it does not affect me. When you're on the ground and upset and face on the floor and you're crying and it doesn't affect you because you don't care, that to me is, they're not your person. If you want to know if somebody is your person, have they asked how you're doing? I've seen so many people go on dates or have relationships and they say, yeah, they were nice, but I don't think they ever really asked about me. They just talked about themselves, as they just needed to, rent an ear for a little bit because they just made it all about themselves. Those are people that are not going to be your people. If you want to know if they are your person, you don't have to ask them, why don't you ask about me? They will naturally want to know more about you. You don't have to ask. At this one time where a woman asked me, I went on a date and he really didn't ask about me, that much. I'm not really sure what to do. I said, don't go on another date. If they're not going to just ask about you in the basics, how could they ever want to know about you when things are hard, when they will be hard? There's no getting around it. They will be hard. That's how you know if they are your person. They're willing to have the deep, hard conversation.
How do you know if your relationship just has so many arguments that it's beyond saving? How do you know that it's gone too far?
When you look back and the other person is 10 miles behind you.
Explain that.
When you're doing it alone. That you've read all the books, you've read all the materials, you're listening to all the podcasts. You might be listening to this episode and going, I desperately want to heal my marriage, my relationship. I don't know what to do, because most likely they're the only ones with an oar in their hand trying to paddle. And the other person is just in the back with their arms folded. I don't want to be here. Does it not bother you that we are in conflict right now? I don't really care. It's really your fault. And they feel like they're the only ones that are there. These people that It doesn't matter what technique you do. It doesn't matter how much you push. They are someone that will never try and reach for you. So how do you know when it's enough that you've put out your hand and they're unwilling to take it? And you just look back in the rearview mirror and they're okay with leaving it.
Yeah. And I think the hard part is sometimes people show these glimpses of or rays of hope, and then you believe that, and then they go back to being the way they were.
Yeah.
And they kind of oscillate between showing you they care momentarily, but then going back to not caring. And it's so hard to know which one to invest in and which one to believe.
I think that the more honest of a conversation you can have with that person, the more honest reflection of what kind of relationship you have. Like we talked about at the beginning, Jay, if I can't have the hard conversation with you, then how deep is our relationship? You know, if look at the relationship itself, if it's only surface level conversations, I'll show you a surface level relationship. But if you're willing to have the hard talks, no, I can show you a much deeper relationship. What's your capacity for the difficult? And yeah, people will show you the glimpses in conversation of, oh, there's that person that I like, and then it's gone. Well, that's because it's only a side effect. It's not the main symptom.
Yeah.
They're only putting on the show to keep you entertained. It's like a slot machine, you know, they just want to keep you addicted just for a little bit longer. And you have to look back and go, what am I getting from this in real time? What am I truly getting from this? Am I enough just by myself? I think that's the deeper issue of feeling, if I don't have this person, who am I?
Yeah. And that's why we don't say how we feel. It's why we mold who we are. It's why we tolerate bad behavior and bad words and bad communication, because we don't feel like we're fulfilled without them. Yeah. And so we'd rather have a painful existence with them than a potentially painful or long-term non-painful existence without them. And I appreciate what you're saying, because it shows that there are real ramifications and consequences to poor communication.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us will just tolerate and elongate those periods, hoping things will just get better or go away. But the reality is that people don't change their communication patterns that quickly.
Yeah.
And that's a harsh reality. It's a harsh truth.
Things don't change if things don't change. You know, I know that when you have those moments where you go, I wish things were different in our communication. Yeah, that takes time. That takes real, raw vulnerability. It is my belief that love is self-disclosure. If I really want you to know me, I'm going to disclose everything. And if I want to know you, I need you to disclose everything. I need radical honesty in this relationship to know that I'm never going to be too much. They need to know. My wife needs to know. She's never going to be too much. And when you can create the element of safety in conversation, you create a relationship that can be impenetrable to anything from the outside. When things get stressful and stuff and that tension, you kind of bond together, right? But if there's a source in between you and you can't address it, if you can't take care of that, it's never the outside in, it's always the inside out that ruins you. Yeah.
Yeah. You made me think of a moment where sometimes if we're doing an interview, or maybe even if we're talking to a friend, and and someone will ask us about a relationship, and my wife will sometimes be like, "Oh, I can be a lot." Like she's talking about herself.
Yeah.
She'll be like, "Oh, I can be a lot. I can be too much sometimes." And my honest reaction is, "You are not a lot at all." And she'll be like, "No, I can't be." And now we're getting to an argument. And I'm like, "No, you're not."
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, she's like, "Yes, I am." And I'm like, "No, you're not." And it reminds me, because it's that same thing. Like, I appreciate her because I don't think she's a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's not a moment where I'm like, "Oh, you're being too much."
Right.
Because you're right. I want her to be herself with me.
Yes.
With what she's going through, and trust that she can share that and express that.
That's how you know that they're your person.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're not too much for you.
Yeah.
You know, you have capacity for all the range of everything that they will be, and what they have to offer. You know, their strengths as well as their weaknesses, especially the weaknesses, because you and I, we have many.
Yeah, of course. You know? Yeah. So you're saying that if you don't have the capacity to handle all of someone, then they may not be right for you, and you may not be right for them.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If there is a mismatch in capacity to deal with the messy, right? They say, if you can't be with me in my hard times, then you don't deserve me at the best, right? That's absolutely true. especially in conversations. If I can't have the grace, the capacity by you for me to say the wrong thing,